Hello, my name is Jingonelli, and today we are going to be joining Below class. It's going to be an online class. So before we log on to the class, make sure you subscribe to the channel to get notifications for online uploads.
It must be lawful. The expression of readiness to contract, all of it must be lawful. It doesn't have to comprise any kind of illegal elements in it. Then we have the distinction of an offer from an invitation to treat. Distinction of an offer from an treat. Remember, you're going to do a face-to-face examination at the end of the semester. Now, they always bring number one, which is a problem question. And that problem question always has 5 issues, always has 4 issues. And those 4 issues are listed in a paragraph, which can be like half a page or can be a full page, which can be half a page or can be a full page. So there is a scenario whereby Gorola went to Capital Shopper Supermarket to buy a 55-inch screen, to buy a 55-inch screen. However, to his surprise, the screen was tagged on. The screen was tagged on 200,000. The 55 screen of Hisense, flat screen of Hisense was tagged on 200,000. So Gola they took it to the counter. So the person who works at the till, the attendant at the supermarket, informed Gola that he should add some money since the television was at 3M Uganda shillings. Gola insisted that the price tag was the real price of the what? Of the television. And but the supermarket refused to advance the television to him at the price of 200,000, alleging that actually it was just not supposed to be so, but the TV is 3 million Uganda shillings. So Gola has been paying your tuition and knows that you have been doing business law 1. He's seeking some legal advice from you. So advise Gola. Those answers are going to come from the class. Advise Gorola. Let me get someone to advise Gorola. I think we have been through this with Judith. And let me get someone. So advise Gola. Gola went to the supermarket, found that the television was being sold at 200,000. Reaching the counter, the television is at 3M. He's perturbed. They have refused to give him a television, but he has been paying your tuition and knows that you have been doing business law 1. Advise Gorola. Martin, advise Gorola. Pasive Martin, advise Gorola. Who is willing to advise Gorola? I want to hear from you people. Gorola has gone to the supermarket.
Please pardon.
It was an offer.
Hello? Hello? Janet, you are trying to participate in Kwasibe Martin. I have not heard from you.
It was an offer.
I want details. I want details. Remember, there are people who are absent-minded. So if you just say it was an offer made by who? I don't understand. Hello? I'm listening. Who else wants to participate in that scenario of Gorola? Yes, Martin. Your mic is on. You can please you can explain to say that. If you say it was an offer, give etc. We have Wange Walida. Awange Walida, you can participate also. And also you can write your answers in the chat. I see some people are writing in the chat. Yes, Monica, you have something to say? Mkwasiwe Martin, it's a network issue. Monica, are you saying something? Yes, Judith, submit. Kibabazi Monica, mute your mic. Kibabazi Monica, mute your mic. Yes, Judith.
Okay, it's me, like, since the Gora is an offerer, so like he doesn't have the right to do what? He doesn't have the right to take that thing since he has not agreed with the offeree.
Okay, thank you very much for that submission. So in differentiating an offer, from an invitation to treat, Martin is saying an offer was not signed and there's no contract was reached. Indeed, no contract was reached. So looking at differentiating an offer from an invitation to treat. So that case of Gola gives the plain meaning of an offer and an invitation to treat. Whenever you see goods displayed in a supermarket, that's an invitation to treat. Even when they have price tags, that is an invitation to treat. It is not an offer. It is not an expression of readiness to contract. The expression of readiness to contract comes to manifest when actually the customer selects the particular good and tells the seller, "I'm buying so such and such a thing." So display of goods in a shop is an invitation to treat. That is the case of Fisher versus Bell. You read it in your free time. In your examinations, to get better marks, you have to do what? To write those cases. That Fisher versus Bell, someone was selling an offensive weapon, but court said that it was just a mere invitation to treat. Then there's this case of Pharmaceutical Society of Great Britain versus Boots. In that case, every person to receive medicine from a pharmacy must have had some kind of writing from a physician. But these pharmaceuticals, but Boots chemists, they had a pharmacy whereby customers could serve themselves. So even pharmacies then, even to now, had to have pharmacists. Pharmacies had to have pharmacists who would actually advance medicine to the customers. But in Boots pharmacy, the pharmacist was at the counter, but the patients would go and choose any kind of medication they want and bring it to the counter. So the Pharmaceutical Society was alleging that these people were violating the law relating to having some kind of prescription from a physician before someone can be able to access medicine. So court held that the offer was made at the counter, not at the shelf where goods were displayed in the shelf. And you'll also read the case of Harris versus Nickerson. So goods displayed in a supermarket, those are invitations to treat. Goods with the price tags, those are invitations to treat. Advertisements for auctioning, they are also invitations to treat. Then we have invitation for tenders, where government advertises someone for people to come and provide services. When you apply, you are making an offer, but when the government advertises tenders, that is an invitation to treat. A company prospectus, which is the document that calls the public to subscribe for shares in a company. That company prospectus is also an invitation to treat. It is not an offer. Once you apply for shares in that company, the company is free to sell them to you or reject to sell to you those particular shares. I believe that is well understood. All right, Martin, thank you for that submission. So that is it. Are there any questions? You should ask questions. Are there any questions? Mhm. Yes, an offer is the expression of readiness to contract. An expression of readiness to contract. The expression of willingness to contract. That is what we call an offer. Someone shows the desire or manifests the desire by way of conduct or in writing or orally that they want to enter into a contract. Then you go to the shop. The scenario where you go to the shop when you want sugar, you tell them I want sugar at 4,500 a kilogram. That is an offer. So termination of an offer. Termination of an offer. An offer can be terminated by a lapse of time. By lapse of time. An offer can be terminated by a lapse of time. For example, if you have
So he put this thing, somebody asked him,
la canister, you're making noise for us. Whoever is near her, please inform her that she's making noise for the class. Okay, then we have a termination of an offer. An offer can easily be terminated, or an offer can come to an end. So lapse of time. There are some offers that have a time limitation. At times, lapse of time can be due to the nature of transactions. For example, if you order for Cafe Java lunch from Cafe Javas at lunchtime today, and they do not respond, but they respond tomorrow at lunchtime, and they also send the food. So the offer can lapse because of time. Then if someone tells you that I'm selling my phone this week at 100,000, if you do not accept it when the week elapses, lapse of time catches you out of the ambit of the acceptance of the what? Of the offer. Excuse me. Then we have an offer may be revoked or withdrawn. That is what we call revocation at 200,000. And then you are like, I'll get back to you. But before you accept, someone says, you know what, I'm no longer interested. I've come to say that I've come to see that due to the rise in fuel prices, even phone prices are high. So I'm not selling it. So that is it. That is revocation. Someone withdraws the offer before it is actually what? Accepted. Do we have any questions? You read that case of Ramsgate, Victoria Hotel Company versus Montefiore. Then an offer can come to undescribed failure of condition subject to the offer, subject to which the offer was made. For example, that case of Helson versus Henshaw, the plaintiff offered to buy flour from the defendant requesting the reply to be sent by wagon driver who communicated the offer. The defendant communicated acceptance by post office. For example, someone says, I'm selling my phone at 500,000. Please respond by WhatsApp message. You respond by a voice note, or you respond by a phone call. It's very, very different. So the offer automatically comes to an end. Or someone tells you, I'm selling my car at 5 million. Please respond via WhatsApp. Then you send your son. Go and tell Steven that I'm willing to buy his car at 5 million. You get, I believe you understand what I'm talking about. Then death or insanity. Death or insanity also brings an offer to an end. Death or insanity, these things bring an offer to an end. For example, if you go into a restaurant and you order for chips and chicken and immediately you collapse and die, the offer automatically comes to an end. Oh, if you go to the restaurant, and you order for chips and chicken, and instead of the attendant responding, they undress themselves in form of insanity, in form of something that shows that they are insane, automatically the offer comes to an end. For example, if you have an issue with your wardrobe in the hostel and you invite a carpenter to repair it, and you tell them, work on my wardrobe at 500,000. And the carpenter says, let me get back to you. But as the carpenter is crossing the road, is knocked down to death or is incapacitated, the offer automatically comes to an end. Then a counter offer. We have discussed the counter offer. A counter offer brings an offer to an end. For example, the issue of Gorola Moses about the television of 200,000. Once he said that he wants to buy a 55-inch screen of Hisense at 200,000, and the attendant responded by saying that that 55-inch television is 3 million Uganda shillings, automatically the offer of 200,000 was actually rejected. Let alone if the shop attendant or if the restaurant attendant, or if the supermarket pay 200,000, Gola is free to reject, because that is a new offer. The original offer of 200,000 was rejected by a counter offer. I believe that is well understood. Because when you read that case of Hyde versus Rich, I think Hyde versus Rich. Let me enlarge it so that everyone can be able to see it. Hyde versus Rich. The case of Hyde versus Rich. And we can read together. Please try to follow. We can read together. An offer is terminated by a counter offer. And this position was illustrated in the case of Hyde versus Rich. The defendant offered in writing to sell his farm to the plaintiff for £1,000. Note that the defendant offered in writing to sell his farm to the plaintiff for £1,000. The plaintiff wrote saying he would give £950 for it. The defendant refused to accept this. Later, the plaintiff agreed to pay £1,000, which the defendant refused to accept. The plaintiff sued for an order of specific performance. His action failed because this offer of £950 was a counter offer which terminated the defendant's offer of £1,000. Thus, when the plaintiff later accepted the £1,000, there was no offer formed. I believe that is well understood. If you have not understood it, you can use your free time to further understand it and also read the case. Then rejection. An offer can be terminated by rejection. An offer can be terminated by rejection. An offer can be terminated by rejection. Social settings are not commercial settings, yet business law is related to commercial settings. Let me just give you a scenario. For example, there's a gentleman in your class called Hamza. He wants to get married to Sharifa. When he kneels down before Sharifa and tells her, Sharifa, I want to marry you. And Sharifa says no. That is what we call rejection. You go to a shop, you tell them, I want You go to a shop, a campus student tell them, I want a box of condoms. The shopkeeper responds and says, no, I'm not going to sell to you. That is a complete rejection. Rejection is different from a counter offer. A counter offer suggests something, but a rejection just puts everything to an end. Let me pick this call. I'm going to get back to you. So rejection, I think we got it. So let us look at acceptance. Do we have any questions on offer? Offer is a very examinable question. It's very popular. Please learn it, know it, and know that. Yeah, learn it. So yeah, that is it. Let's look at acceptance. Acceptance is a positive response to an offer. It's an indication to enter and be bound in the contract. That is acceptance, or to be bound by the contract. For example, you go to a shop, you tell them, I want, let me see what's popular the shop. I want a kilogram of Omo at 10,000. The shop attendant says, okay, let me give it to you. That is acceptance. Yeah. So that is acceptance, is a positive response to an offer. There are rules governing acceptance. Acceptance can be oral, can be in writing, or can be by conduct. Can be oral, can be in writing, or by conduct. You go to the shop, you write, I want, let me say, I want what? You go to the shop, you say, I want rice, and you write it down on a piece of paper. And also the shopkeeper writes down saying, yes, I'll sell to you the rice. That is in writing. Like there are popular questions, there are popular contracts whereby, for example, there are contracts whereby they are made in writing. The offer is in writing, and even acceptance in writing, like a sale agreement, land sale agreement, vehicle sale agreement, those things. They can be in writing. Even WhatsApp, it can be in writing, because you write and someone on the other side actually does what? Accept. So even acceptance can be orally made. Acceptance can be orally made. Someone tells you, I want rice and chicken, and the restaurant attendant, the waitress says, okay, we shall offer you rice and chicken. That is, there's acceptance by conduct. Is acceptance by conduct. You go to the shop, you say you want something, and they just give it to you without even saying anything. That is acceptance by conduct. Then acceptance must be communicated and received by the offerer. Must be communicated, the rule acceptance must be communicated to and received by the offerer. The person who makes the offer must receive the acceptance. The person who makes the offer must receive the acceptance. For example, if I go to the shop, and I say, I want rice and sugar, the acceptance must be communicated to me. It must be communicated to me. It must be communicated either by conduct, in writing, or orally. So even silence does not amount to acceptance. Silence does not amount to acceptance. Someone presuming that by keeping quiet you have accepted, it is in law wrong. It is in law what? Wrong. It is in law very what? Very wrong. So silence does not amount to acceptance. For example, this scenario of telling someone, if I do not hear from you, I'll consider it a yes. Some gentlemen, if I do not hear from you in 1 week, I'll consider it a yes. Silence is a no. That case of Fentress versus binary. This person told his nephew, if I do not hear from you, I'll consider the horse mine. The horse was sold to someone else, and this person decided to sue. Court held that silence does not amount to acceptance. Court held that silence does not amount to acceptance. Then acceptance must be absolute and unqualified. That means it has to be complete and without any condition. For example, if someone says, you know what, you go to a shop and you say, I want rice and sugar. Someone says, you know what, I'll sell to you the rice and sugar. If you sell to me that jerrycan you have at your home, that is not acceptance. It's actually counter offer. So acceptance must be absolute and unqualified. The offerer may expressly state the method of communicating acceptance. That is under the conditional offer. Then another thing we can look at, acceptance must be communicated by the offeree or by someone with authority. The case of Poyle versus Lee. This this guy applied for a headmaster job, but someone came and told him, you know what, you have got the job. So later on, the job was given to someone else. Court held that this person who had told him that he had got the job had no authority to do so. So acceptance must be communicated by the offeree or the person with authority who can be an agent or any person in that category. Then acceptance is not effective if communicated in ignorance of the offer. Acceptance is not effective if it is communicated in ignorance of the offer. Acceptance is not effective if it is communicated in ignorance of the offer. The other case of Fitch versus Sinadak, where this person apprehended a criminal and later on realized that there was actually money on the criminal's head, a bounty. So acceptance is not effective if it is communicated in ignorance of the offer. I believe that is well understood. We have exceptions to communication of acceptance. Exceptions to communication of acceptance. We have unilateral contracts. Unilateral contracts are contracts where one party is supposed to perform. Unilateral contracts are contracts where one party is supposed to perform. For example, if you lose a dog and you advertise it, you want to make a unilateral contract, you don't know who's going to find the dog. If you lose a child and advertise the child with a reward, you don't know who's going to find the child. So the action or the performances on your side, the person who has advertised, that is an exception, because someone you don't know who you have made the offer to. Even these offers made to the whole world, you don't know those, because unilateral contracts also comprise of those offers made to the whole world. And the postal rule, we have the postal rule. Acceptance by post is effective as soon as the letter of acceptance, which is correctly addressed and stamped, is put in the post box. Immediately, a binding contract is created. So under the postal rule, acceptance is not when the letter is written, it's not when the letter is delivered to the person it is being sent to, and it is not when the letter is actually opened. The acceptance is when the letter reaches the post office with all the requirements of a valid postal letter. You have to note that if the letter is lost or delayed in the post because of the offeree because of the offeree writing a wrong address, the postal rule does not apply. The postal rule does not apply. Any questions? Any questions? Any question? You have to be with the burning question. And even online, it is easier. Online, it is
Excuse
easier
me, sir.
because. Yes, please.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, madam, I'm getting you clearly. I'm getting you clearly, madam. Or if you are,
Yes.
or you are not a
I would,
madam.
I
Yeah,
would,
you are.
I would like you.
Mm.
I am. So I would like you to explain, to help me explain back this point of acceptance of the offer must be absolute and unqualified.
So absolute and unqualified, it means it must be complete without any condition. For example, if you go to a restaurant and you say you want chips chicken, the other person must say, okay, I'm going to give you chips chicken. I believe you understand. But does not have to say, you know what? If you want chips chicken, please come tomorrow. No, we don't sell chips chicken today. We sell it some other day. Or can say, you know what? We can sell to chips chicken if you are staff of MOOBs. I believe you understand. Must be complete and unqualified. It must be complete and final. It doesn't need to bring in terms and conditions. You can sell you chips and chicken if you are, let me say, if you support this guy, the guild president Chiega, if you support the Chiega, or if you are from UDI, or if you are from NRM, we shall sell you chips chicken. So it gives a qualified, doesn't have to be subject to any condition acceptance. I believe you understand. For example, let me bring it in a domestic in a domestic setting, but domestic settings do not apply when it comes to law. If someone proposes to you, Sarah, and they want to marry you, and you tell them, you know what, I can only accept you if you graduate. That is not yes. If let me say Jackson tells you, Sarah, I want to marry you, and they say yes, I've accepted, but first finish the degree. You understand? So that acceptance is qualified. It is qualified because this person wants to get married to you in the state they are in right now, but for you are giving them the condition of a degree. So that is a counter offer. It doesn't actually suffice. Sarah, have you understood? Are you persuaded? Sarah, have you understood? All right, let me see what is in the chat and we'll get back to consideration. Someone has not understood the postal rule about cases. Cases have to be, you have to capture those cases. Look, if you want to get an A or if you want to get a B plus, you capture the cases. Capture the cases. Then another thing. The postal rule. The postal rule. The postal rule is an exception to communication of acceptance. Remember, acceptance must be communicated to the offeree. But the postal rule by letter, the letter doesn't have to be first delivered to the person who has made an offer. But if the letter reaches the post office on its way to the offerer, to the pool, if you write to Mbalala University offering to sell to them, let me say, whiteboard markers, if you write to them, and they also write back to you. If the letter reaches the post office of Mbalala when it is coming to Kampala, they have accepted. I believe that is well understood. A unilateral contract is a contract where one party is obligated to perform. Bilateral, both parties perform and they are there immediately, like restaurant contracts, contracts to buy cars, contracts to build houses, contracts to what every person performs immediately or later on performs. But in a unilateral contract, one party is known and it is one party who is mandated to perform. For example, when you lose your child and you advertise and you say whosoever finds the child will be awarded or rewarded. That is a natural contract because it is upon you. You are not sure of who's going to perform, and no one will say to you, you know what, rest, rest, I will find the child. I believe you understand. No one will come to you saying that, oh, I'll find the dog. Their acceptance is manifest by actually finding the lost item or doing what is in the advert. Yes, please. So I'm answering questions that are written in the chat. Do we have further questions? Do you have further questions? Do we have further questions? All right, let me see in the chat. People are writing in the chat. Some of them are coming in privately. Okay, thank you so much. Joanne says he has understood. So, that is consideration. Consideration, every contract must have value, must have the exchange of value. Every contract must have the exchange of value. So consideration is a loss or benefit gained by parties in the contract. You go to a restaurant, you lose money, you gain food. The restaurant loses food, they gain money. But in most instances, it is the offerer who loses because the offerer says, give me this at this price, and you give there the money. So it's a gain and a loss. Consideration is defined as a benefit acquired by one party or a detriment suffered by one party in the contract or the other party in the contract. And when you look at the case of Curie versus Misa, if you look at the case of Curie versus Misa, if you look at the case of Curie versus Misa, you'll find out that Lash just said that a valuable consideration in the sense of the law may consist either in some right, interest, profit, or benefit on one party and some detriment or loss on the other party. So it's a gain and loss. It's a gain and loss. That's why in contracts whereby someone is not losing or gaining, and someone is not losing, that contract may not be actually viable. That contract may not be implemented. That contract may not be what? Implemented. So we have types of consideration. We have types of consideration and they are listed there. Have types of consideration and they are listed there. You can actually do what? Types of consideration, you can be writing them down. Let's begin with executory consideration. Who can submit on executory consideration? 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 I see some chats. Martin, thank you very much for that submission. It's actually correct. For example, you go chips chicken, you tell them I want chips and chicken, but I'll pay later. That's executory consideration. But executory consideration is different from executory consideration because in it actually happens immediately. The exchange is made immediately. But past consideration is not consideration. Past consideration is not. Past consideration is not consideration. For example, in my primary, had an issue whereby someone would remind you when you had something that you like a snack, someone would tell you, you know what, remember last week I also gave you some of my snack, also give me some. I think that is past consideration. But executory consideration is you find someone with a snack, they give you a snack, you also give them a snack if you when you have. But that is executed. But executory, someone tells you, you know what, let me give you some on my samosas. When you get yours, you also give me some.
Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel.